Liara ran. Her small, nimble feet barely made a sound over the cracked, rocky ground. The wind howled across the barren plains of Terran 6, lifting clouds of red dust that burned her eyes. She pulled her cloak tighter, shielding her face from the storm. The ruins of the once great alien city stretched endlessly around her broken towers, collapsed walls, and the skeletal remains of ships scattered like toys abandoned by giants. This world had been her home, but now it felt like a grave. She paused behind a fallen wall, catching her breath. Her violet eyes glimmered faintly under the faint light of Terran 6's twin moons. Her skin, marked with glowing bioluminescent patterns, shimmered in the dust storm. But she kept as still as possible. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow made her heart race. She had learned early that danger could appear anywhere, and it often did. Liara had been alone for as long as she could remember. Her parents had vanished during the Great War that destroyed most of their cities. Others of her kind had either fled to distant worlds or perished. She didn't know why she had survived. Perhaps it was luck, or perhaps the planet itself had a strange way of choosing. Either way, she had grown clever, strong, and cautious. Trust was a luxury she could not afford. As she moved forward, careful not to draw attention, her sharp ears picked up an unusual sound, a low hum, unlike anything she had heard before. It was mechanical and deliberate. Curious, she crept closer, hiding behind a half-collapsed tower. There, among the ruins, she saw them, humans. Liara froze. She had heard stories of humans from travelers long ago. Stories of their strength, their cunning, and, above all, their unpredictable nature. They were said to be dangerous, capable of great cruelty, yet also capable of incredible kindness. The humans she saw now looked weak and vulnerable. But that did not ease her fear. There were 3 of them, stumbling over rocks and debris, carrying small devices that emitted soft glows. One of them limped, and another seemed to struggle with a damaged piece of equipment. They were trying to repair something, a small, rounded craft that had clearly crash-landed. Smoke rose from its side, and sparks flew as one of the humans worked frantically with tools Liara didn't understand. Her heart pounded. She wanted to run, but something held her back. She could sense their desperation. For the first time in a long time, Liara felt a flicker of curiosity. Were they as dangerous as the stories claimed? Or were they just lost, like her? The wind picked up again, carrying the metallic scent of the damaged craft and the faint smell of humans. She wrinkled her nose. Their smell was strange, pungent, and yet somehow alive. She edged closer, her instincts alert. She wanted to see without being seen, to understand without being discovered. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the ruins. One of the humans had dropped a tool. It skittered across the stones, clanging loudly. Liara's eyes widened, and her body tensed. If they saw her now, they might attack or run, but they did not. Instead, one of the humans, a tall man with dark hair and a kind expression, spoke in a soft, unfamiliar language. Liara didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone, reassurance. The human reached down, picking up the tool and handing it back to his companion. His patience, his care, it was unlike anything she expected. She crouched lower, hiding behind the broken wall. Her fingers brushed against the rough stone, grounding her. She had always believed humans were unpredictable, violent, perhaps even cruel, yet here they were, showing concern for each other. Something in her chest shifted curiosity mixed with caution. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden roar. From the shadows of a nearby ruined tower, a creature lunged a predator with razor-sharp claws and eyes that glowed like molten gold. Liara gasped, her heart leaping into her throat. She had seen this kind of beast before. It was fast, deadly, and relentless. The humans froze for a moment, then reacted instinctively. One raised a device that emitted a bright flash, temporarily blinding the predator. Another flung a small object that hit the ground with a loud thump, diverting the creature. The injured human managed to retreat behind the craft, still clutching his side. Liara's mind raced. She knew the terrain, the hidden paths, and the places where the predator could not follow. Her instincts screamed at her to run, yet she felt a strange pull toward the humans. They were fighting, struggling, and they did not know the land as she did. If she stayed hidden, she could help, and perhaps learn more about these strange beings. Stepping lightly, Liara darted from her hiding spot. Her movements were swift, precise, almost invisible against the ruins. She led the predator away from the humans, using narrow alleys and fallen debris to confuse it. The creature growled and snapped, but Liara was faster. She glanced back once, seeing the humans staring in astonishment, their faces a mix of fear and wonder. After several tense minutes, the predator lost interest and slinked back into the shadows. Liara allowed herself a quiet sigh of relief, her chest heaving. She had done it. She had saved them, though they did not yet know it. The humans approached cautiously, their eyes scanning the ruins. Liara ducked behind a wall, unsure if she should reveal herself. One of them knelt, examining the ground where the predator had been. They seemed grateful, though they had no idea who or what had helped them. For the first time in a long time, Liara felt a strange warmth inside. It was not fear. It was not loneliness. It was something like hope. These humans were different. Perhaps they were not the monsters she had imagined. Perhaps they could be allies, but trust was still dangerous. She had learned that long ago. She could not simply step out and join them. She would observe, learn, and wait. She would see if their kindness was real or just another trick. Night fell over the ruins, and the twin moons cast a pale light over the desolate landscape. Liara watched from her hiding spot as the humans set up a small, makeshift camp near their damaged craft. They worked together, speaking in their strange language, laughing quietly at small mistakes, helping each other when needed. Liara's violet eyes reflected the flickering light of their fire. She had never seen anything like it. In the darkness of her world, she had survived by herself, relying only on fear and instinct. And yet, here were these humans, imperfect, vulnerable, yet capable of care and cooperation. For the first time, she wondered, could humans be trusted? Could they be the companions she had long thought impossible? She did not answer. She could not. But as the fire crackled and the humans huddled together, Liara felt a stirring in her chest, a mixture of curiosity, caution, and a small spark of hope. She would watch, she would wait, and perhaps, just perhaps, she would let them see her. The storm passed, leaving the ruins quiet under the twin moons. Liara stayed hidden, her senses alert, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. For now, she was alone. But for the first time, the thought of others, humans, did not fill her with fear. It filled her with something new, and that was dangerous. The morning light crept slowly across the ruins of Terran 6, painting the broken towers and scorched plains in pale orange. Liara watched from her hiding spot on a crumbling wall, her violet eyes scanning the humans below. They were moving carefully, tending to the small craft they had landed. One of them, the tall man she had noticed yesterday, was directing the others, pointing to parts of the ship, handing tools, and speaking in that strange, soft language again. Liara didn't understand the words, but she could see their meaning. They were working together, trying to survive, just like her, but they were weaker, slower, more exposed. She had never seen a creature like them. They walked upright, their movements deliberate, not as instinctive or precise as hers. Yet there was something in the way they helped each other that caught her attention. They were careful, attentive, and even though they were struggling, there was no panic. Their teamwork was different from anything she had known. Curiosity tugged at her. Liara had spent her life hiding, watching, and surviving. She had learned to trust no one. But now, for the first time, she wondered, could she approach them? Could humans be more than danger? The answer came quickly, though not in the way she expected. A loud roar shattered the morning calm. From the shadow of a fallen tower, a predator appeared, its eyes burning like molten gold. Liara's heart leapt, She recognized the creature immediately. It was fast, deadly, and nearly invisible in the ruins. The humans froze. One of them raised a small device, flashing a bright light at the creature. Another shouted words she didn't understand, waving their arms. But the predator was relentless. It leaped toward the injured human who limped near the craft. Liara didn't think. She acted. Using her knowledge of the ruins, she darted from her hiding spot, silent as a shadow. She struck a metal pipe with a sharp rock, sending it clattering across the stones. The noise distracted the predator long enough for the humans to pull back. Liara led the beast into a narrow alley, where it could not move freely, and vanished into the shadows. When she returned, the humans were staring in amazement, their expressions a mixture of fear and wonder. Liara crouched behind a wall, unsure whether to reveal herself. She had saved them, yet they did not know it. The tall man knelt near the craft, examining the path where the predator had disappeared. He spoke to the others, gesturing toward the walls. But they seemed unsure. Liara could see confusion in their eyes, and something else, gratitude, faint but real. She had never thought humans capable of recognizing help, especially from a stranger. For the next hour, she watched them from a distance, keeping hidden. They moved with careful purpose, repairing the ship piece by piece. They shared food and water, offered assistance when someone struggled, and spoke quietly to encourage one another. Liara could feel a strange warmth inside her chest. She had always been alone. She had survived on fear, instinct, and solitude. But now she saw something different. She wanted to help again, but this time, she needed to be careful. The humans might not understand her. They might react with fear, or even attack. She crouched in the shadows, observing every movement, learning their habits, their patterns. By midday, the humans had made some progress, but they still faced a serious problem. The craft's main power core had been damaged, and none of their tools seemed sufficient to fix it. One of the humans, a young woman with short, sandy hair, worked tirelessly, her brow furrowed in concentration. Liara could see the frustration building in her. She had felt the same frustration many times when trying to survive. Something in her shifted. She remembered the countless times she had repaired shelters, built traps, and fixed equipment to survive. Maybe she could help them. Cautiously, Liara moved closer, hiding behind the craft. She studied the machinery, her fingers itching to touch and repair it. The humans were absorbed in their work. Unaware of her presence, she reached out, her hands delicate but precise, and adjusted a small component she recognized from the scattered debris. Sparks flew briefly, and the machine hummed softly, a sign of progress. The humans jumped at the sound, startled. The tall man turned quickly, scanning the area. Liara froze, unsure what to do. Then he spoke, his voice calm, soft, and gentle. "Who's there?" he asked, in a tone that was not threatening. Liara hesitated. She had never spoken to humans before. She had never been seen. But the curiosity inside her outweighed the fear. Slowly, she stepped out from behind the craft, keeping her hands raised in a non-threatening way. The humans froze. Their eyes widened as they saw her glowing violet markings, her strange, delicate features, her small but agile form. Liara could see fear flash in their eyes, but it was mixed with awe. She did not speak. She could not. She simply pointed toward the repaired part of the craft, then toward the young woman struggling to fix the rest. She mimed what she had done, hoping they would understand. There was a long, tense silence. Then the tall man smiled faintly. "You helped us?" he said slowly, pointing toward the repaired component. Liara nodded once, cautiously. She still did not trust them fully, but she wanted them to see she meant no harm. The humans exchanged glances. The tall man extended a hand slowly, in a gesture of trust. "I thank you," he said. His voice carried warmth, patience, and sincerity. Liara froze again, unsure what to do. She had never been thanked, never been recognized. She had survived by hiding, not by forming bonds. Slowly, almost tentatively, she lowered her hands. The humans watched her carefully, not moving too fast. The tall man spoke again, this time more softly, as if coaxing her. "We don't want to hurt you. We need friends. Can you help us?" Liara hesitated. She wanted to run, to vanish into the ruins where no one could find her. But something in their eyes told her they were not like others she had feared. They were vulnerable, struggling, but kind. And for the first time, she felt the desire to connect, to trust, to help not for survival, but because she wanted to. She nodded slowly. Then, cautiously, she stepped closer. The humans did not recoil. Instead, the young woman smiled faintly and offered her a piece of dried fruit. Liara stared at it for a moment, then accepted it, keeping her distance. It was a small gesture, but it meant more than words. For the first time in her life, Liara felt a connection, a fragile, growing bond with beings she had feared. The hours passed as Liara helped them repair the ship. She did not speak, but she used gestures, pointing, adjusting, and demonstrating what to do. The humans followed her lead, sometimes imitating her movements, sometimes offering tools. Slowly, a rhythm developed. Alien and human worked together, each learning from the other. By nightfall, the craft was partially repaired, enough to withstand short flights and avoid immediate danger. The humans had made a small fire, and Liara sat a short distance away, watching them. They laughed quietly, sharing stories in their strange language. She could not understand the words, but she felt the warmth, the camaraderie, the bond. For the first time in years, Liara did not feel alone. She still had her fears, still had doubts, but she had discovered something new. Humans were not monsters. They were not enemies. They were capable of kindness, of cooperation, of trust. The tall man approached her cautiously, kneeling to her level. "I'm called Jaren," he said softly. "And this is my team. We're grateful. You helped us." "Thank you." Liara blinked. She had never been thanked. She had never been seen for what she was, capable and valuable. Slowly, she nodded, her violet eyes reflecting the firelight. It was not trust yet, not fully, but it was a start. And as the twin moons rose higher in the sky, casting pale light across the ruins, Liara felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Perhaps, in this harsh, abandoned world, she could find not only survival but friendship. And perhaps, humans were not to be feared after all. The sun had barely risen over Terran 6 when Liara stirred from her hiding place near the ruins. For the first time, she did not wake to fear. Instead, she woke to curiosity and purpose. Yesterday had changed everything. The humans were not monsters, as she had long believed. They were strange. Yes, clumsy and unpredictable, but they were capable of kindness, of patience, and of teamwork. And now, they needed her. She crept closer to the makeshift camp, keeping to the shadows. The humans were already awake, moving quickly to prepare the damaged craft. Jaren, the tall man who had spoken to her, was checking a small device on the side of the ship. The young woman with short, sandy hair, whose name she had learned was Mira, was adjusting wiring that glowed faintly under her careful hands. Liara watched silently for a moment, memorizing their movements, noticing the tools they used and the ways they communicated. She wanted to help again, but this time, she needed to show that she could be trusted. Slowly, she stepped into the open, her violet markings glowing softly in the morning light. The humans froze. Jaren's eyes widened, but he did not speak sharply or move aggressively. Instead, he raised his hand slightly, a gesture Liara had begun to understand, as calm and welcoming. "I see you," he said softly. "Are you ready to help again?" Liara nodded. She gestured toward the wiring Mira had been struggling with. then mimicked the motion of connecting the components. Mira's eyes lit up in understanding. She handed Liara a small tool, a delicate instrument that required precision and care. Liara's hands were nimble and quick, and she adjusted the wiring flawlessly. Sparks flew briefly, but then the system hummed steadily, a sign of success. The humans smiled. Mira clapped quietly, and Jaren nodded in approval. For the first time, Liara felt a sense of pride. She was not just surviving, she was helping others survive. The morning passed in a rhythm of cooperation. Liara moved seamlessly between tasks, fixing broken components, adjusting tools, and showing the humans more efficient ways to repair their craft. She did not speak, but communication flowed easily through gestures, shared glances, and actions. Slowly, a bond formed, silent, steady, and real. By midday, the craft was nearly functional, able to make short flights and move safely through the ruins. The humans paused to eat, sharing small rations of dried fruits and water. Liara stayed a short distance away, hesitant at first, but then Mira held out a piece of fruit again. This time, Liara accepted it without hesitation, taking a small bite and savoring the sweet taste. "You like it?" Mira asked, smiling gently. Liara blinked, then nodded. Mira laughed softly, a sound that felt warm and comforting in the cold, ruined world, but the calm did not last. A distant roar echoed through the ruins, sharp and menacing. Liara froze, her instincts screaming danger. She turned toward the source of the sound. A group of raiders from a rival alien faction had appeared, their weapons glinting in the sunlight. They had tracked the humans and now intended to claim the craft for themselves. Jaren saw them first. "Raiders!" he shouted, urgency in his voice. The humans scattered, seeking cover near the craft. Mira crouched behind a broken wall, clutching a small device that emitted faint light. The raiders advanced cautiously, their eyes scanning for threats. Liara's heart pounded. She had faced predators before, but this was different. These raiders were intelligent, coordinated, and dangerous. Yet she could not leave the humans to face them alone. Not now, not after everything. She stepped forward, her movements swift and deliberate. Using her knowledge of the terrain, she darted through the shadows, appearing suddenly behind the nearest raider. With a quick strike, she toppled him, knocking his weapon aside. The raiders hissed in surprise, not expecting such agility. Jaren and the others used the distraction to their advantage, firing small energy pulses that kept the raiders at bay. Liara led the humans through narrow alleys and collapsed buildings, guiding them to safer positions where the raiders could not follow easily. Her knowledge of Terran 6's ruins proved invaluable. One of the raiders lunged at Mira, but Liara was faster. She leaped forward, pushing Mira out of the way and slamming the raider into a wall. The creature groaned but quickly recovered. Liara could feel her pulse in her ears, her muscles tense, but she did not falter. The humans followed her lead, combining their weapons with her agility and strategy. They moved as a team, each covering the other, each trusting Liara's instincts. Slowly but surely, they pushed the raiders back. The battle was chaotic, tense, and dangerous, but Liara felt a strange sense of exhilaration. For the first time, she was not alone in a fight. She had allies. She had humans who trusted her and whom she trusted in return. Finally, the raiders retreated, disappearing into the shadows from which they had emerged. The humans collapsed near the craft, breathing heavily, faces smeared with dust and sweat. Liara stayed a short distance away, her own chest heaving, her hands trembling slightly from adrenaline. Jaren approached her cautiously, his expression serious but grateful. "You saved us," he said. "All of us. Without you, we wouldn't have made it." Liara looked at him, unsure how to respond. She had never been thanked like this before. She had never been seen as more than a survivor, more than a shadow. Slowly, she nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was pride, yes, but also something more: connection. Mira stepped forward, holding out her hand. Liara blinked, then placed her small, delicate hand in hers. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. Trust had been built in a single day of danger, cooperation, and shared purpose. The humans began repairing the craft again, and this time, Liara worked alongside them openly. They shared tools, instructions, and even small stories in their language. Liara did not understand the words fully, but she began to recognize patterns, tones, and meanings. Slowly, communication became easier. By nightfall, the craft was ready for a test flight. The humans were exhausted but determined. Liara helped adjust the final components, ensuring everything would function correctly. The tall man, Jaren, looked at her with genuine gratitude. "You're part of this team now," he said. "We couldn't have done it without you." Liara blinked, her violet eyes reflecting the pale light of the twin moons. "Part of the team," she whispered to herself. The words felt strange and wonderful. She had never belonged anywhere, not to her people, not to the ruins, not to the predators she had once feared. And yet, here she was, accepted, valued, and trusted. The test flight was cautious but successful. The craft lifted off the ground smoothly, hovering for several minutes before landing safely. The humans cheered quietly, and Liara allowed herself a small smile. For the first time, she felt like she was not just surviving, she was thriving. As they settled back near the camp, Jaren spoke softly to Liara. "There will be more challenges ahead, other dangers, other worlds, but we will face them together. Do you want to come with us?" "I want to dot. With us. I want to dot. 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 I want to dot." Liara hesitated. She had spent her entire life alone, relying only on herself. Leaving Terran 6, leaving the ruins she had known since childhood, was terrifying. But the thought of facing the universe with these humans, with allies, with friends, it was also exciting. Slowly, she nodded. It was a simple gesture, but it carried more weight than words. She was no longer alone. She was no longer abandoned. She had found something she never thought possible: trust, friendship, and hope. The humans smiled, offering her a place near the craft for rest and food. Liara settled close to the fire, watching them move around with quiet efficiency and camaraderie. She felt warmth she had never known, a connection that filled the empty spaces of her heart. For the first time in her life, Liara allowed herself to believe that survival was not enough. She could have more companionship, purpose, and perhaps even a future beyond the ruins of Terran 6. And as the twin moons cast their pale glow over the planet, Liara realized that she had changed. She had faced her fear, helped others, and found trust where she had expected only danger. The humans were not perfect. They were flawed, fragile, and strange. But they were courageous, kind, and capable of great compassion. And for Liara, that was enough. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the fire and the quiet hum of the repaired craft fill her senses. For the first time, she slept without fear, knowing she was no longer alone. Tomorrow, they would continue their journey. But tonight, she allowed herself a small, precious truth. Humans were not to be feared. They were to be trusted. And with that trust, Liara felt something new bloom inside her, a sense of belonging. The morning on Terran 6 was calm, almost peaceful. The wind whispered through the ruins, carrying the scent of dust, metal, and faint vegetation struggling to survive. Liara stood near the human craft, her violet eyes tracing the horizon where the twin moons of the planet had set hours earlier. For the first time, she felt anticipation instead of fear. Jaren and the other humans were busy checking the craft one last time. Mira, the young woman who had first offered her kindness, adjusted wiring and tested the energy cores. The ship had been repaired beyond expectation, ready to leave the desolate planet behind. And Liara, once abandoned and alone, was now part of the team. She glanced at the ruins, her home for so many years. Memories of fear, loneliness, and survival flashed through her mind. She remembered the predators, the dust storms, and the nights she had spent hiding from shadows. But now, those memories felt distant, softened by the warmth she had found with humans. Jaren approached her, his expression serious but gentle. "Liara," he said, kneeling to meet her gaze. "We're about to leave. You don't have to come, but I want you to know you are welcome with us, always." Liara looked at him, searching his eyes. There was no deception, no trickery, only sincerity. She remembered the fear she had carried for so long, the distrust that had kept her isolated. But now, she also remembered the moments of cooperation, the shared danger, the human's patience and kindness. Slowly, she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "I will go." A small smile crossed Jaren's face. Mira stepped forward, offering her hand again. Liara took it this time without hesitation, feeling a connection she had never known. Together, the alien girl and the humans prepared to leave the planet behind. The takeoff was smooth. The craft lifted off the cracked, rocky surface, rising above the ruins that had been Liara's world for so long. She watched the collapsing towers and scorched plains shrink below them. Terran 6, a planet that had been cruel and lonely, was now behind her. She did not feel sadness. She felt hope. During the journey, Liara began to speak. Slowly, carefully. Words were difficult, strange in her throat. But she tried. "Humans. Kind," she said, pointing to Jaren and Mira. They smiled, encouraging her, responding in slow, deliberate language that she could understand. She learned quickly. In hours, she could communicate simple ideas and share observations about the planets they passed. She marveled at the stars, the vastness of space, and the countless worlds beyond her imagination. She had never imagined that she would see this not alone, not abandoned, not hidden in the ruins of Terran 6. The humans treated her as an equal, valuing her skills and knowledge. Liara guided them through navigation when her instincts told her the safest routes. She repaired minor equipment with precision, showing abilities that humans marveled at. They trusted her completely, and she trusted them. The bond between them was no longer fragile, it was real, forged through shared danger, cooperation, and mutual respect. Days passed. Liara's confidence grew. She laughed quietly at human jokes, mimicked their gestures, and began to understand the subtle language of their expressions. For the first time, she experienced friendship not as a distant concept but as a living, breathing reality. But the universe was never without danger. On the edge of a small asteroid belt, a sudden burst of energy flashed nearby, a patrol from a hostile faction, scanning for trespassers. The humans prepared to defend themselves, but Liara had an idea. Using her knowledge of alien terrain, she suggested a course through the asteroid belt, weaving between the massive rocks with precision. The humans followed her guidance. The patrol fired, but the ship dodged expertly, Liara's instincts guiding them safely through the dangerous field. When they emerged on the other side, Jaren clapped her on the shoulder. "You saved us again," he said. Liara smiled, feeling pride swell inside her chest. She was no longer alone. She was a protector, a friend, a valued part of the team. Later, as the craft glided through calmer space, Liara stood at the observation window, looking at the stars. Mira approached her quietly. "You're brave," she said softly. "More than I ever imagined." Liara turned to her, her violet eyes glowing faintly. "I learned," she said simply. "Because of you." "Humans," Mira smiled, and Liara realized that these humans, who had once seemed so strange and frightening, were now her family. She felt warmth, safety, and belonging emotions she had thought impossible in a galaxy that had abandoned her. The journey continued. Each planet they visited brought new challenges. But Liara faced them with courage. She helped the humans navigate alien terrains, repair equipment, and even negotiate with cautious alien species. Her past of loneliness and fear had given her skills, but now those skills were part of a greater purpose. One evening, as they rested near a calm, blue planet with oceans glimmering in the distance, Liara sat beside Jaren and Mira. She looked at them both, her mind full of questions and ideas. Humans. Strong, she said, struggling to find the words. Not. Cruel. Kind. Protect, Jaren chuckled softly. Yes, he said. We try. And we protect those who need help. Including you. Liara felt a deep warmth at his words. For so long, she had lived with fear, always hiding, always alone. Now, she realized that she could trust humans, that she could have companions, that she could belong somewhere. It was more than survival, it was life. As the human craft prepared to leave orbit, Liara looked back at the planet that had been her prison and her training ground. It had taught her to survive, to be clever, and to be strong, but it had also shown her the cost of fear and isolation. She would not return, not as she had been. She was changed. She turned to Jaren and Mira. Together, she said, pointing forward. Always. Together. Jaren smiled and nodded. Mira placed a hand on her shoulder. And for the first time, Liara truly felt it. Hope, belonging, and the promise of a future beyond fear. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a galaxy full of unknown worlds, dangers, and wonders. But Liara no longer faced them alone. She had humans beside her companions, who had shown her trust, kindness, and courage. She had found a place where she belonged. And in that moment, as the ship glided silently through the void, Liara realized something simple but profound. She was no longer abandoned. She was no longer alone. She was alive, connected, and free. The universe awaited, and Liara was ready to meet it.